pretty decent service out there, as well as Will Penasini if he's used. And Lachlan Galvin, he's been killing it so far this year. Being really good, really busy, really active. So that will be a really good battle on the Monday. Yeah, fuck off with the audio. And then the other ones, Kao Iro, Senna, he's been a guy that mainly guys like Guru and that have spoken a lot about him, so I won't touch on him too much, but he's been a guy that's really impressed in New South Wales Cup, coming through the ranks, and he's a guy that you need to watch out for, see how he goes. I thought he was a tad disappointing in the trials, but he'll be really good in the future. Really strong centre, reminds me of Val Holmes. As you just sent a couple of questions in. Yeah, nothing. And then the other one, Maverick Geyer, son of Mark Geyer. He was really good in a trial 2 years back, or last year maybe. He's a guy that I've been a little bit excited for to come in. He's been going pretty good, so one to watch. Really excited for that. And then the next sort of talking point, it is the last round of the junior reps in New South Wales. Queensland goes for a couple more weeks, but in New South Wales, it is the last week before the finals, and there is a break before finals. You got a couple of games on the weekend, which are going to set up really nicely for finals. Eels v Magpies in the SG Ball. That game, I'll be at that game. That's on Friday during the day at 12:30. Good Friday, obviously. And that will determine who finishes sort of 6th, 5th in that bottom part of the finals. And I think the loser gets eliminated unless things go their way. So Parramatta are slightly ahead. So that might help them in that regard. But I think if Magpies lose, they're out. And then that same matchup on the Friday is in Harold Matts as well. And that is first place Magpies versus a third place Parramatta Eels, who have been going quite well. And that will be a really good game. So I suggest whoever can get down there to watch it does watch it. It's at Eric Tweedle on Friday. Thoughts on Ethan Sanders not starting at 7 for Para with Moses out? Look, I said when that news came out, I was more leaning towards Talangi or Arcee. I was probably bigger in the camp of Arcee starting. The reason being Sanders hasn't exactly set it alight in Cup yet. I'd give him a little bit more time. I wouldn't read too much into it. There's a couple of people that did message me that go, oh, do you think that's a sign that he's leaving? Not necessarily. I mean, the general thought has been that he is on his way out the door, especially because he is behind 2 premier halves and he's not really going to get a look in. My main concern, though, was just that he wasn't ready, and it is a period of 8 weeks where they do need to keep up and do need to keep themselves in that top 8 so that by the time that Mitch is back, they can make a finals push and even a premiership push. That will be their mindset. So that's probably why they have gone to Lungi. He's already impressed, and he's a guy long-term as well, but I would have personally gone with either Arcee or Talangi. That was my first 2 choices, and then it was either Hands or Sanders. Not to say that if Sanders did get a crack, he wouldn't have killed it, but he just needs a little bit more time to develop, and that is because he's only played the 3 New South Wales Cup games so far. So that's just sort of where I stand on it anyway. Maybe it is a sign that he's on the way out, but that's just what I took out of it. I wouldn't read too much into it as being he's on the way out. I'd sort of see it more as they're picking who their best option is. I'll just go have a look. If any questions pop up on there, just let me know so I can pop back across. But I'm just going to pull up a couple of the team lists on the weekend and pull up the ladder and just sort of talk about the SG Ball and coming into the finals. And as I pull that up, just let me know.
Yeah, there's a question.
Hold on. What is it from and from who?
Thoughts on Jackson Yates, Harold Matthews, Sid Roosters, 9.
Thoughts on Jackson Yates, Howard Matthews for the Roosters. The Roosters are actually going really good, and Harold Matthews, they did get beat on the weekend. Let me just pull that up, because sometimes I haven't seen a whole lot of him, to be honest. But that team has been going good. I'll just flick back across and check the questions, because there is a couple of guys that I have already answered about. Like, I seen one about Aiden Crowley, and I did mean to get to that. I have answered about him before, and Billy Arena, another guy who I've answered heaps about. So just watch for that. Just let me know if there's questions. But yeah, so on the weekend, Eels Magpies, that's the one I touched on. So yeah, Magpies lose, they're out. Eels win, they're in. Steelers, they're a side that's been going really well this year. They're sitting on the fringe. They're in 6th. And they have the matchup of the North Sydney Bears. Game that they should be winning. If they're a finals caliber side, they should be winning that. Bears have only won the one game all year. And then as for a couple of the other teams, Bulldogs, they're basically cemented in. It would take a little bit of a bed shit for them to fall out. They're against the Storm, who have had a couple of really good games, so I wouldn't discount them yet. But Bulldogs should be safe. And then the Sharks, they're the only other team that I think can make the top 6. And they've got a game up against the Roosters, who are the top dogs. So that's going to be really, really tough for them. Roosters, 8 from 8, 16 points, and 137 differential. They've just absolutely killed it this year. Although they came up against Balmain, who are currently last on the table, and only beat them by 1. So you can ambush them. And apart from that, there's not really many games to touch on. I think Warriors-Dragons will be a really good game. Dragons forward pack really good. Warriors forward pack really good. Although their captain, Kalis Fatialofa, is playing Jersey Flegg this weekend. So it might be a little bit easier for the Dragons in that regard, especially with the Warriors. They're out of finals contention, so they're now playing for pride. Other teams that are out of finals contention are the Panthers, and the Raiders would need a miracle. So I think they're as good as gone too. Like, there's 94 points differential between them and Para, and there's 64 between them and Steelers. So they need a massive turnaround to be able to make it. And Eels and Steelers are the teams sitting in 5th and 6th.
Yeah,
Got a question. I'll just hop back across. Thoughts on Waka Hammond? I have touched on him before. Although, not bad to touch on him again, but he killed it in the couple of games that I've watched, and there's been more highlights that have come out of him playing around the grades. I'm not sure what grade exactly, but he looks a real talented player. That Melbourne Storm system is coming along really nicely. Thoughts on the SG Ball Roosters spine? I really do. I rate Zach Sarfati and Toby Rodwell really highly. Zach Sarfati's been really busy back there, although not named in the team list this weekend. It's Michael Nasser, who I haven't seen a lot of. Jake Elliott, he started at 9 earlier this year. He has shifted into the 6th position. He was crucial in Jersey Flegg for the Roosters last year in their grand final. Really good in that game. Toby Rodwell, really busy organising halfback. I also rate him very highly. I have touched on him plenty of times before on these lives, and I also spoke about it on the How Good Sport podcast when I went onto there. Dane Jennings Hainplane, yeah, I did put that video up. That was he's got a bit about him, that Dane Jennings. I haven't seen a lot of him outside of a couple of games, but that try was unreal, wasn't it? Thoughts on Jacob Fong? He's... I tried to make a player comparison about him the other day. It's tough to compare him to someone, but he's really tall, quick. I almost compared him to Joseph Swalei a little bit, but peg it back. I just try and peg it back a bit. But he's been good for that Rabbitohs side on the wing. Really talented player out there. I've just lost all the questions on here, so I'll if you had a question before that didn't get answered, put it back, but I've just lost it there. Thoughts on Jason Halley? Really, he's injured at the moment. I'm not sure if he's back. I haven't checked their team list yet, but he had a hand injury, I think it was, and he's been out for a little while. But when he was playing, he looks really good. He's big and powerful, really hard to bring down. Thoughts on Dom Ferrugia, Para SG Ball. He's got a lot of accolades to his name, and he's been all right as a try scorer this year, and a really sharp shooter with the boot as well with that goal kicking. So he'll be important for them in the finals run. They need him to be at his best. Thoughts on Magpies pack in both ball and match. I'll start with the Howard Matthews. Their bench rotation is really, really strong. Malcolm Milo and Siatame Havia Jr., two guys that really have impressed me in the games that I've watched. As for their starting guys, a little bit ineffective in the first game that I watched against the Bears. That was where the Bears actually got the jump on them a little bit. Hold on, let me just get this team up. So Maddox Fui and Christian Tapu Moores. He was good. The second guy, Christian Tapau Moores. He was really good in the second and third games that I watched for them. And obviously, like as I've said multiple times, you can't watch every game with Howard Matthews and SG Ball, which I wish you could. But that's just a New South Wales Rugby League thing. They don't stream all of them. But Christian Tapu and Moores was quite good as well. Central Coast, Howard Matt's thoughts. Let me just bring up their team list as well, just so I can get a sort of read through them. We look down the list here. Jai Callaghan, really, really good player. Looks very sippy. He looks a bit like an Oztag player, but he is physical enough for it. But yeah, really zippy. Tyreek Campbell is really good. He scored a double a couple of weeks ago. Josh Fesselai, he was a guy that I did players to watch, I think, in round 1. He's a guy with plenty of talent. Played pretty high-level schoolboy footy in the under. So he's a guy that I've got a pretty big opinion of. And they've got a couple of decent forwards too there as well. And I think it's Fesselai's brother, Caleb Fesselai. Both really talented players. All the boys into the 6 Isaac Fotu Moala. I haven't seen enough of him to give an educated opinion on boys into the Bears. Have answered the Aiden Crowley one. Predicted player of the tournaments. So for SG Ball, you'd have to give it to one of the Roosters boys, and I'd give it to one of their forwards. I think Blake Steep's been really good all year, and same with De La Salava'a. In terms of the best player, if I was doing a 3-2-1, I'd give it to Mitchell Woods. But you've got to give it to the sort of most successful teams and the most successful players in those teams. So one of the Roosters forwards, or I'd give it to Mitchell Woods and SG Ball. And for Howard Matthews, I don't know, I'd probably give it probably Hiamasi Makasini. He's been super for the Magpies. Or you'd probably give it to Rex Bassingthwaite as well. He's been quite good for the Roosters. Howard Matthews there. Fucking spiders. That's good chat, that. Thoughts on Jet Sitter? I have made a couple of posts about him. He's a really talented player. Thoughts on Jack Addard? I don't know how much I've spoken about him, but he's a guy that he's been really impressive when he's had to switch between that fullback and 5'8" role. I do think he's a bit of a better 5'8", but he has been impressive in that fullback role, filling in for Jackson Edgar. What about Eddie Enforcer Kalis? I did a post about him. Really, really good. Off the bench for the Roosters. Really tall, but surprisingly quick as well. He was really powerful against the Panthers in that game. So really impressed me. Tom McKenna, he's been good. All right, I'll try and continue on a little bit. Just give me just a little flick or something when there's a question. Well, they'll probably keep going on with questions, but there's probably a heap of shit in there too. Or snakes and spiders and shit hanging around, but or audio. Audio's their favourite.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no, not Wi-Fi audio. Audio's no good, laggy. Howard Matthews Cup. Magpies are the runaway team at the moment, but Bulldogs and Eels, and they bat out a draw. So those three teams at the top of the ladder are all undefeated. That will change for one of the Eels or Magpies this weekend. But those top three teams are all undefeated and all stacked with talent, top to bottom. The Roosters are just behind them. They put up a gunfight against the Magpies on the weekend. It was 32-22. They never really got back into it. But they did put up quite the fight against them, so I think they'll be a good title contender. The Sharks, they've cemented themselves into that spot. Oh, actually, they could fall out of it, to be honest. Let me have a look what would be required. So I think they're in 5th. They got the Seagulls and Warriors, who are the only two teams that can overtake them. If they both win and Sharks lose, they're out. But the Sharks, they got a pretty good side. The 5'8" and the fullback, they're the ones that have impressed me the most. That was Oliver Lester and Callum Grantham. Callum Grantham iced a really good field goal against the Raiders, and Oliver Lester looks... I got the player comparison on the call of a Nathan Gardner, which I liked. Really sharp fullback. And the Seagulls and Warriors are the only other two teams that can make it. The Warriors skipper, man, Cowan Patterson, he could be a superstar. So I do hope that they find their way into the finals so that we can see a little bit more of him. I'm really impressed by him. And then as for Manly, they've just sort of battled away, haven't they? Riley Caswell, he's out the back, really sharp player. Unfortunately, they've lost in the games that I've watched, so I haven't really got a fair gauge on them. But they've got a couple of workhorse forwards that I thought looked okay when they got beat by the Knights. But yeah, they've got a side where if they win and make finals, they could come up with an upset. But they haven't quite been all that competitive when I've watched them. That's it. So sort of Howard Matthews. Any more questions that have come through? Just shit talk, yeah. That's all right, but I'll rate that. Hey, Justin, that's not on. It's actually a blue shirt too, yeah? Shit camera, but it's actually a blue shirt, so quit that. All right. Yeah, take the hint. I'll just touch on... Actually, this is another talking point that I wanted to make. The Raiders and their investment in the juniors is paying off unbelievably well. Their New South Wales Cup side and Jersey Flegg side absolutely killing it. The New South Wales Cup side, they've just destroyed everyone. Magpies, who have got some of the best depth in the competition, and the Warriors, another side, unbelievable. They just rinsed them. So it was 50-12, I believe. That's off the top of my head against the Magpies, and then it was 44-12 against. Oh no, that's the Jersey Flegg. Yeah, 42-4 in the New South Wales Cup. So they've got an unbelievable side. Chevy Stewart, that's a guy that was on a lot of people's. That was at the front of a lot of people's minds coming into the season, the NRL season. He's been absolutely killing it, putting up unreal numbers. Looks really sharp. There's a couple of things in Chevy's game that just sort of think he might get found out in first grade until he fixes them. I think he will be a star once he gets there, but he has a tendency to sort of crab across field and look for the big play, and it works in Cup. It works coming through the grades, but I think he gets found out on the biggest stages. So in big games that I've seen him, he's sort of been shut down a little bit. The semi-final for SG Ball, he got sent off in the Howard Matthews Grand Final. And in State of Origin under 19s, he got found out as well a little bit. So just once he fixes up once he fixes up that sort of crabbing across field and starts to sort of take his medicine a little bit and go through the middle, that's when he'll become a star. All right. Yeah, I think I'll wrap it up there. Got actually a pretty good turn up. Fucking. Come on, boys, fake accounts. You're better than that. You're better than that fake account, the boys. Nah, all good. I'll wrap it up there. Thanks to all those that came on. We actually got a pretty good turnout there. Make sure that you go across and watch on YouTube. I'm going to start putting up a couple of clips on there and starting to put up a little bit of content. I do want to do interviews. Interviews with the juniors and that a little bit tougher. There's a couple of contract shit things, and also it's tough. Just sort of getting them on. So yeah, right. End it up there. Fucking zooming in. Get out. Get dirty cunt. All right.